Hello, Cleveland. I'm finally drinking this beer from Trillium, Cutting Tiles, which is the new name for Artaic. And I actually never had Artaic. So it's 100% Mosaic double IPA with wildflower honey. And Trillium, it's the only beer where they use honey, only hoppy beer they make where they use honey, and they only use one hop. Usually they use Columbus or something else in there, but this one is just Mosaic, and they're switching the beer name to Cutting Tiles because they're going to start using different single hops for this beer. But this is the original Mosaic version. It's actually a half percentage lower in alcohol than all the batches of Artaic. So, but they say it's the same thing as Artaic. It says the beer formerly known as on the bottom there. Oh, but it was canned today, which is awesome. And I've never had even the old Artaic. So I'm excited. It's 8% alcohol, and they use honey and Pilsner malt as opposed to the normal two-row they always use. And then a lot of the same other grains. They use two different kinds of wheat in this one, so it looks like they're going for, a softer, floral, more honey-y sort of IPA. So I don't think it's going to be too bitter or anything, but it'll be very interesting because I've never had a Trillium beer that was bittered with anything but Columbus, basically, because they use Columbus for like all their beers. Interesting. Not ridiculously hazy. Almost a little light going through there. It's not a huge amount of head. It was just released today. And it was, the first, they've never canned Artaic before. It's the first time they've done it. Whew. Very interesting aroma. Not the normal Trillium thing. I definitely get some honey in there. But it isn't a huge aroma. They say they double dry hop this one. But maybe they didn't, this batch wasn't super perfect. Because I feel like I had 4 Point, their standard pale ale in cans last week, and that was fantastic and super, super hazy. But this one, yeah, I think it's maybe a little too low on the carbonation, actually. That could be one of the problems where I'm not getting so much aroma. I mean, clearly there is visible carbonation, but usually there's more aroma in head, but this is also pretty different than their other beers. They bittered it with just Mosaic. But I do get honey and a little bit of some kind of funky green thing happening too. But it's not like super sweet candy, cotton candy, bubblegum like I was actually expecting. The honey definitely makes a big effect. Yeah, there's something that's a little weird in there. I think that's probably maybe the oniony quality that I noticed from Mosaic hops blended with that honey flavor. Really soft mouthfeel. Good amount of honey sweetness. It's not exactly like a clear in-your-face honey flavor, but it's definitely there, and it's pretty complex. But it's not your normal IPA, and pretty different from Trillium's. It's barely bitter. It seems like they didn't use the Mosaic hops they didn't use a lot of bittering Mosaic hops. Maybe they didn't. The Mosaic they use didn't have a very high alpha acid content, whereas Columbus almost always does, but it's really soft feel, very low bitterness. Like, usually Trillium beers have a good amount of sweetness, but a good firm bitterness. This one's really easy drinking, and the feel has this kind of almost not quite slick flavor, but there's definitely some effect of all that honey in the grist that's not making it feel as like soft and grainy as Trillium beers usually do. Yeah, really interesting feel. It's almost oily, I guess. Perhaps from all the Mosaic hops on their specific oils. It makes a different feel than the bitterness from the oils of Columbus hops, which they usually use. But it's not a big bomb fruit explosion. The honey, I think they really tried to make sure the honey was noticeable in this beer, and it worked out well. But it's really different from their other double IPAs in my opinion. And apparently the batches of Artaic have been varying quite a bit, and this one's, they dialed down the alcohol a little bit. I'm just now noticing a little heat in my throat, but there's no booziness to it. It's really mild. And that honey really, instead of just making the Mosaic seem even more candy-like, it pushes it to its kind of weird, oily, wild, floral, slightly vegetal side, which I'm enjoying. But it's not, it's not a big in-your-face juice explosion like just about every other Trillium beer. And it's nice to see that they're doing things slightly differently. And yeah, I'm excited because apparently they're going to start doing this cutting tiles, but with different hop varieties. So I bet maybe next they'll do like Citra or something like that. But the Mosaic bitterness is really pleasant. Yeah, it seems like it's just a little low on the carbonation, which is interesting. I wonder why that happened. If they were trying to make sure that it didn't like eat all the sugars from the honey, so it would still have a big effect on the flavor, and it didn't get enough carbonation. I mean, I know they force carb these, and they're not like can conditioned beers or anything. But a million factors can, affect how easy it is to carbonate beers, I think. Now I was noticing a teeny bit of booze in the aroma. But it's a little bit more like a traditional IPA. A little bit, actually reminds me slightly of Alchemist style IPAs. Heady topper. It's mild. It got a good sweetness to it. Those ones might be a little bit more dank. This still has that dank quality to it, definitely. But I'm actually kind of glad that it's not the big bubblegum, just drinking pineapple juice and cotton candy sort of Mosaic. It's on the edges. It's bringing out some of the weirder flavors, the oily flavors from the Mosaic hops that I really enjoy. The green flavors, it's not super green and all just dank spice resin in your nose, definitely. There's plenty of pineapple aroma and some peachiness. Yeah, I think really this would stand out. The flavors would stand out more if it was just a little more carbonated. That's kind of interesting. We still have another can left. I wonder maybe if it'd be different. Maybe this can is a little bit lower carbonation. So far the ratings for this have been pretty good, but yeah, I wonder if this batch is just a little bit imperfect. But the only flaw I would say is the carbonation. There's no like diacetyl or anything serious in this one. Well, it's a little, since I think it really just needs a little more carbonation, it's going to be a little difficult to give it a fair rating. Maybe like 80, 85, something like that. It's really nice, but $5.50 a can is a little bit steep. The honey and how it interacts with the Mosaic hops is really unique. This beer is very unique, and it's amazing with all the unique, strong flavors it has. It's very mild on the palate, and it brings across lots of honey sweetness too. But it's still really dry, but barely bitter. It's just not exactly a normal Trillium style beer, I would say. So I'll give it like 87, I guess. I really like it. But it could be just a tinge better. Goodbye.